Hello and welcome to Norwood Wesleyan Church online. This is Pastor Phillip Telfer and I'm glad you could join us. Our church in Edmonton, Alberta is dedicated to reaching for God together. We welcome you along on the journey and we hope our time together encourages you toward a more meaningful and personal relationship with God. As you have, all of us have surely noted, in Edmonton, the summer is sadly on its way out. And as summer disappears, sadly, the summer seasonal fruits go with it. Yesterday morning, we had our men's breakfast, and Jason Shine was our cook of the day, and he gave us a blueberry supreme experience, and it was incredible to have blueberry pancakes with blueberries inside of the pancakes, and then blueberries on top of the pancakes, and then whipped cream on top of that. If you didn't come out, guys, you missed out. But we had more, so thank you for that. It was delicious, and the seasonal fruits can be powerful. One of them that is, I guess, the highlight of the day for us right now, as I think of the message, is the Saskatoon, a local berry. It's actually a power fruit with great nutritional value. It has more calories, more protein, more carbs, more fiber, and more potassium than blueberries, strawberries, and raspberries. It's a powerful fruit, yeah. Seasonal fruit. They may not be the sweetest fruit around. I'm actually a huge fan of Saskatoon berries. But they're very good for us. They're very healthy berries, and they grow locally. They're so good, in fact, that it wouldn't actually be the worst idea to plant a Saskatoon shrub outside the church. It would be probably a cool experiment because it should grow, because they grow locally, assuming that we were careful to take care of it, careful to plant it in good soil, in a place where we get sunshine, and that somebody, one of us, maybe Nick, would water the plant like he was watering the flowers outside the windows. So maybe we put him in watering duty. But as long as we took care of this Saskatoon shrub, it should grow because they grow locally. So day after day, week after week, month after month, we would wait for the harvest time. It would start to grow. Saskatoon harvest is usually June and July, late June, early July. So in order to get to the fruit, we would need it would be difficult to wait that long and to keep cultivating the plant without any berries to show for it. But when the harvest months came, we would get excited, and they would eventually arrive, the harvest months, that is. And then come June and July, our neighbors with Saskatoon shrubs would start gathering in their harvests, and we would go to our little shrub out here, and we would look for berries, and we would find nothing. This would actually not be anything strange, because in the first year of planting, the Saskatoon shrub does not produce any berries, but it requires cultivation nonetheless. So we might be disappointed, we might throw a little pity party, maybe a temper tantrum or two and cry a little bit, but we would eventually get over it, and we'd stick to it, and we would cultivate and plant and make sure that the sunshine was there. It's a good location. Let's check the soil, make sure that it's getting its nutrients. Is Nick actually watering the plant? Let's keep checking in with him. Water it twice if we need to. We would cultivate it, right? We would continue to care for this plant all the way through, day by day, week by week, month by month, until here comes June and July again. Second year, cue the neighbors, whoever the Saskatoon enthusiast neighbors are. They would start to gather in their harvests, and so we would return to our shrub and check, and guess what we would find? Nothing. Not one berry. Second year, year two, nothing grows on a Saskatoon shrub. Ridiculous, I know. 2 years of investment, nothing to show for it except a bigger shrub with no berries. No fruit to show for it. So at this point, most of us would throw a fit. Maybe the church board would be like, okay, let's put a parking lot in here instead of some shrub that's not producing any fruit. Maybe somebody would just get upset and whack it down and cut it down, and I don't know who would do that. Maybe me or Nick, the one who's watering it. But if we persevered, if we continued to cultivate this shrub for a third year, day by day, week by week, month by month, here comes June and July, if we continued to care for it, guess what would happen? Nothing. No, I'm just kidding. There would actually be berries. There would be a small crop of berries. On the third year of a Saskatoon shrub's existence, after planting, it will produce a small crop, a small harvest. And so we would start to pull in these very powerful berries. They're good for you. They're very nutritious. Powerfully nutritious. I wouldn't say powerfully delicious, but powerfully nutritious berries would start to arrive. And in the 4th and the 5th and the 6th and the 7th and even the 8th, 9th, and 10th years, there would be an increasingly abundant crop of Saskatoon berries that we would find on this shrub as we would take care of it, continue to cultivate it. So while the Saskatoon plants do grow locally, they definitely do not grow quickly. The point I want to make with the Saskatoon shrub is this: great change takes great time. Great change takes great time. Before we pursue great change in our lives, we should ask ourselves the question, is the change worth the wait? Because there's a waiting period with any kind of change. Some of it's like instant popcorn. You don't have to wait very long, right? But for the change, you have to wait. There is a waiting period for the change to take place. But the question we should ask before we pursue the change is the change worth the wait? Good Saskatoon farmers know the answer to that question is yes. If the answer were no, they would not be good Saskatoon farmers. They would either have to find a different job, or they would just be satisfied with poor results, poor investments, which would make them bad Saskatoon farmers. So good Saskatoon farmers would answer yes to, is the change worth the wait? Proverbs chapter 13, 2 key verses in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 11 and verse 19. I love these two verses because they highlight the waiting period and also the satisfaction, the fulfillment of the harvest. Proverbs 13:11 says, or 13 rather, sorry. Proverbs 13, verse 12. I'm sorry, here we go. Verse 12. Proverbs 13:12 says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. So it says hope deferred or hope prolonged. If you have a hope, you have a desire, you have a dream, you have to wait for that dream, that makes your heart sick. That's difficult. That's hard to do. But if you wait, if you hold out, if you endure, if you hold on to that hope and that longing is ultimately fulfilled, that is a tree of life. A tree of life doesn't just pop up. Well, maybe just if you're God, you could make the tree full grown automatically. But usually, you have to wait for that seed to sprout into the tree, right? It takes time. Great change takes time. Look at verse 19. It says, a longing fulfilled is sweet to the soul, basically echoing the second part of verse 12. A longing fulfilled is sweet to the soul, but guess what happens? Fools detest turning from evil. Fools detest turning from evil. Now, the difference between the evil and the tree of life is a satisfaction meter. The tree of life is a tree of life-giving lifeness, right? It's a life tree that's sustaining. It's satisfactory. It's fulfilling you. Evil, on the other hand, is like a temporary fix. Evil is a shortcut that doesn't satisfy as much as this tree of life does. It's the difference between a sunflower seed and a sunflower plant. Like, they're very different. One has a bunch of seeds, one has just one, right? And I don't call it a snack, but some people like to eat sunflower seeds. But if you only had one, that really wouldn't be much of a snack. The difference between evil and the tree of life is the satisfaction meter. Frustration with change can be found in the waiting, and that's what verse 19 is highlighting. It says, fools detest turning from evil, because hope prolonged it makes this heart sick. It's difficult to wait for the great change, and so we take whatever is available right now, because we don't want to put in the time for the great change. We just want what we can get right now. We want our Saskatoon berries right now. We don't want them in 3 to 8 years, so we're going to go to the store and we're just going to pay for them because somebody else grew them. Somebody else put in the time and we're going to take them. We don't want to take the time to grow them ourselves. Unhappily single people, they want to be married yesterday. They're sick of eHarmony. They're tired of broken relationships. They're unhappily single, so they don't want to be single. They want to be married, and they want to be married yesterday. They don't want to put in the work. They just want to be changed right away. This great change right away. People who struggle with infertility just want to be parents already. Hurting people want the pain to go away already. Lazy people want to be instantly fit, don't want to put in the time. Students want to graduate. Graduates want employment. Employees want promotions and benefits as they look forward to retirement. And retired individuals look forward to activities and relationships that will bring them purpose, while even others will look forward to death. Why would they look forward to death? Because that's a final escape from the pleasure they never found and from the pain that never went away. Frustration with change can be found in the waiting, which is why we can find ourselves taking shortcuts to short-lived forms of satisfaction. We can be chasing these quick fixes that will wear off, participating in unhealthy relationships that leave us feeling lonelier than before, consuming substances that only temporarily numb the pain, engaging in activities that distract us from what we really need, depending on cheap imitations to fill our deep human dreams and desires. We grab fast food, I do it too, instead of eating healthy. We wear Band-Aids to cover our wounds instead of waiting for the medications that will heal them. There's a danger in these shortcuts. The shortcuts we take to great change can become shortcuts to great chains. This is not a very great chain, but it's a chain. The shortcuts we take to great change can become shortcuts to great chains in our lives. Instead of taking time to patiently confront our personal pain and to process our emotions and to grow healthy relationships and to invest wisely and embrace the actual reality of our lives, many of us have chosen to take shortcuts to short-lived forms of satisfaction. And as a result, our shortcuts to change have become shortcuts to chains. When the shortcuts to the short-lived satisfaction wears off, what do? We start to return to that shortcut to get another fix, and then another fix, and another, and another, until we start to dig ourselves into an unhealthy habit hole, not a rabbit hole, a habit hole, an unhealthy habit hole known as an addiction. Top 10 addictions, according to webpsychologist.net. 10 most common addictions are alcohol, tobacco, gambling, shopping, emotional shopping, that's a thing. Sex, that's not a shocker. Food is actually, well, yeah. Video games, internet, and work. People overwork themselves. Top 10 addictions: alcohol, tobacco, gambling, shopping, sex, food, video games, internet, and work. Thankfully, in the midst of this, by God's grace, these chains can be broken. These are often the shortcuts that people take to the short-lived satisfaction in our lives that are trying to fill this deep longing for fulfillment in our lives. And they're not working. That's why they're an addiction. That's why it's an unhealthy habit hole that keeps spinning in the rut and not taking us anywhere. It's just spinning in the dirt. There's no momentum there. But thankfully, by God's grace, these chains can be broken. Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. We read it in Sunday school this morning after going through this historical record of people of great faith who have trusted God and stood on the promises that he gave them and watched him come through, and maybe even didn't see him come through, but he did in the future. Then it challenges us in the present to live surrounded by these great cloud of witnesses, to recognize the people that have gone before us, the examples that we have. It says, let us throw off everything that hinders us, the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race that has been marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. It is tough to wait, but great change takes time. And Hebrews chapter 12 is painting this potential to throw off different chains that hold us back, different things that hinder us, different things that slow us down from fixing our eyes on Jesus and all that he has for us, the joy that is waiting for us as we pursue a life submitted to what God has created us to enjoy, and the fulfillment of those desires. Jesus is our ultimate chain-breaking example as presented in this passage, Hebrews 12, 1 through 3. Luke chapter 3, if you look at Luke chapter 3 shows how Jesus beats temptation with the power of God, with the word of God, using scripture. And in chapter 4, right after he goes through this temptation, Jesus announces his mission to share the power of God with others. So he uses the power of God to beat temptation, to beat the chains, right? Potential chains. He beats them with God's power. And then in the next chapter, he starts to share his mission of sharing this message, sharing this power of God with others by doing it in three different ways. Preaching good news to the poor, proclaiming freedom for the prisoners, and by releasing the oppressed. That was Jesus' mission, to bring freedom. through the power of God. Today is Sobriety Sunday, which is a special service where we recognize chains that hold us back or attempt to hold us back in life, and we celebrate the powerful freedom and fulfillment of God's presence. And here to speak to the reality of freedom is a man that attends our church. He helps with our PowerPoint. His name is Alex Neal, and I would like you to welcome him to the stage. He's going to share a testimony of how God is bringing freedom to his life.
Good morning, church. When I first found out about this, I messaged Pastor Phillip about 2 weeks ago, and I said, hey, I would like to share my story. What do you think about it? And I got a text back saying, sweet, let's do it. So I prepared my testimony today. I have been battling alcohol since I was 18. As soon as I turned 18, I was waiting outside the bar to get in. And it's consumed my life for many years and has led me down roads that I didn't wish I could go back and change. But it also was a way that I masked the pain that I suffered when I was 13. My dad left when I was 13 and said, you're the man of the house, take care of the family. And so for many years, that was my way to cope with my pain that I was suffering, because I was put into a role that I never should have been in. And for a lot of years, I blamed God. I said, you did this, you broke my family. Like, why? You're supposed to be all and powerful, and yet you did this to me. Why? Over the years, my addiction has spiraled out of control more and more, to the point where I was drinking every weekend, living a lifestyle where I didn't want nothing to do with God. I said to God, I don't have any desire for you in my life. You just, me and you, we're not going to be friends. We can't coexist. And it led me down a road, a life of partying every weekend, spending money that I had reserved for rent, food, other basic necessities was gone, $200, $300 at a time. And for me, it was like, well, you know what? As long as I have the alcohol, I don't need food. I don't need a roof over my head. And over the years, I've slowly come to realize that I can't let alcohol control me anymore. It's caused many problems with my family, friends, past relationships. To the point where me and my dad, we don't speak. We've agreed that it's better that we just go our ways, and, it is what it is kind of thing. The deciding factor for me that I needed to get my addiction under control came in December of last year. My grandfather passed away on the 8th, and a day later, I just completely spiraled out of control. I was 5 months sober at the time, and we had a family get-together. Nobody was watching me. I took a little drink of alcohol, scotch, my grandfather's favorite 12-year-old Glenfiddich scotch, and I figured, one little shot won't hurt me. That little shot led into more and more and more and more, and before I knew it, I was so physically intoxicated that I was fighting with family members. I was fighting with my own mother. I lost control. I didn't know what I was doing and why I was doing it, but I just figured, I didn't get to say goodbye to my grandfather, so the alcohol, once again, is going to fill that void in my life. And it slowly dawned on me once I became sober that I needed to get help because I was going nowhere fast. And in February, I decided to check into a recovery program at the Hope Mission and make that step forward, because I realized that I can no longer drink in my life. Me and alcohol just cannot be associated with each other at all. And over the last little bit, I'm 9 months sober, coming up 10 months on October 10th. And I owe a lot of gratitude and grace to God because he's done so much for me. In those 9 months, he's repaired relationships that I thought were broken, especially with my daughter, who's 11 years old. There's times where I've wanted to give her up and say, I can't do this no more. She doesn't deserve this. She deserves better than a father who's an alcoholic, a deadbeat dad kind of thing. But he's also blessed me with a lot of other things. My relationship with her, the relationship that I have with this church, getting to do what I love to do, play on a computer every week, and stuff, and just work with Paul and stuff like that, and get back to the church. When I was preparing my testimony, I asked the Spirit to give me a verse that spoke about my trials, my tribulations. And recently I've been reading the book of John, and the verse that I got was John 15:5, that says, I am the vine, you are my branches, whoever abides in me, and I in him, he it is that bears fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. For me, that speaks multiple levels of where I am today, because without God, it is true, I can do nothing on my own. I'm proud to say that, I've allowed him in my life, again, after, pushing him aside kind of thing for many years. But he's also done marvelous works in my life that to this day, I just wake up every day and I go, thank you, God, for another day. Thank you for the friends and family that I have. But I'm also giving him the trust that he's going to plant me in soil where I have the best chance to produce fruit. Because if I'm in, that muck and living that lifestyle where I was, I'm not going to bear fruit. But now I'm better about myself. I feel better about myself. I wake up every day with a great confidence that I'm in the right direction, that I'm doing the right thing. There's been many times where I've wanted to say, quit, I'm leaving the home mission, I'm throwing it all away. Paul can attest to that. I've texted him numerous times saying, I give up, I can't do this no more. But it's the love and grace of God that I continue to do what I do because of the support that I get from family and friends. Which is just great. But just in closing, I want to say that, I abide in Jesus because I realize that he paid a price for me so that I can be free from my addictions, which has controlled me, but also that I can be here today because there's been many times where I've tempted fate so many times, going to parties. Next thing you know, I'm in the hospital, concussions, IVs in me because I've done drugs and everything else under the sun kind of thing. But, it is it's the life that I regret. But I lift it up to God because, like I said, with God, everything is possible. So just in closing, I want to thank Pastor Phillip for allowing me to share my testimony today. I hope it inspires others to seek help in their lives. Because like I said, without Jesus, you can't do anything. And it's just a blessing to be here today, the sun's shining and everything. So I just want to thank Pastor Phillip. And before I go, I just want to pray. So let's pray. Father, I just thank you for today. I thank you for the blessings that you've given me, the ability to get over my addiction of 9.5 months, almost 10 months now, for the marvelous works that you've done in my life. Each and every day, the blessing of my daughter, who's the inspiration of my life, and just the ability to come to Norwood and share the gifts that you give me, a PowerPoint, but more importantly, the relationships and friendships and support that I've established here at Norwood. I just thank you for that. I thank you for the 10.5 years that I've known Paul, for being a brother, mentor to me, as well as Pastor Phillip in the last little bit. So I just continue to ask you to bless my road to recovery, as there's days where Satan wants to break me down and just tempt me to go relapse and throw it all away. But it's with your grace and your power that I'm able to continue to put one foot in front of the other and just continue to move on. I say these things in your most gracious and powerful name. Amen.
Thank you, Alex. Started the message talking about a local berry in the Saskatoon, and the word Saskatoon is actually the anglicized version of a Cree word. It's Missaquatumina, and it means fruit of the tree of many branches, which is pretty special. Fruit of the tree of many branches. There's a quote from the Alberta Agriculture and Forestry online. It says, the first small crop, this third year fruit, the harvest there in the third year, the first small crop may be expected in about 4 years from planting is what they say. Peak production will take another 2 or 3 years if the plant develops well. I share this information, and I started with the Saskatoon plant at the beginning to quote to kind of highlight our main point, which is that great change takes time. Great change takes time. And Alex can attest to that. I'm sure that many of us, if we went around the room, we could all share in different ways how we have had to wait for the greatest changes that have taken place in our life. Penelope, like Eli, every parent in this room, you have to wait for the child to be born, right? And that's a tough wait. Some ways I think that's a very good wait. To wake us up to the realization of parenting and the hefty calling that it is. And yet great change takes time. And that's just the way it is. As we prepare to close our message, I invite you to consider another image, and that is the image of a seed. The image of a seed. A seed comes with an outer shell that protects the life of the plant until it's ready to grow. But before it can grow, the seed must be planted in rich soil. It must be exposed to great light and watered well. And finally, for the plant to grow, the shell of the seed must go. For the plant to grow, the shell must go, or else it will suffocate the life of the seed. And as the shell breaks down, life breaks through. There's a breakdown before there's a breakthrough. Now, some of us listening to this message have become lost in unhealthy habit holes, known as addictions. We're carrying invisible chains that are robbing us of our potential. We're living like seeds instead of like trees. Our shortcuts are short-circuiting our potential. And for all of us with chains, the question we should be asking ourselves is the chain worth the weight? Like, heavy weight. Is the chain worth the weight? Is the chain worth the guilt? Is it worth the shame? Is it worth the emptiness and the brokenness and the loss that it brings your way? If not, consider cultivating your potential by planting, exposing, and watering the chain as a seed. The 3 requirements for the shell of a seed to break down and the life of a seed to break through are good soil, sunlight, and water. So those are our 3 steps in this message, is to firstly think of the chain and then plant it when you know what it is. Plant the chain in godly soil. Bury your chain in the substance of God's richness, in the substance of God's goodness, His love, His mercy, His grace, and His forgiveness. Bury the bottle, bury the pornographic images, bury the cigarettes, bury the lies that you've believed about yourself, about being worthless. Bury the hatchet of bitterness. Bury the video games. Bury the credit card. Bury the drugs. Bury the lottery tickets. Bury the television. Bury the internet. Bury the food addiction. Bury the chain that is suffocating your potential to grow into the fullness of who God made you to be. That's the first step. Plant it. Proverbs chapter 24:11 as a reminder for us that after we bury it, we need to leave it there. Bury it and leave it there, because you'll most likely want to return and take it back. Proverbs 24:11 says, like a dog returns to the vomit is a fool who repeats his folly. And yet there's something that draws the dog back. There's something that draws the fool back to the evil, and it's probably the wait, the prolonged hope that is sick to the soul, that makes the heart sick to wait. So the challenge is to plant it and leave it there. In order to do that, you need to expose it. Step 2, expose it. We need sunshine for the seed to grow. Expose your chain to social sunlight. Make your private commitment a public confession. Confide and confess in a safe person who lives close by to you, not someone far away, someone close, who can help you resist the temptation to return to the burial site and dig it up. And shine your light on that burial site for yourself. Set up some proactive boundaries that will protect you from setting yourself up to trip back into it. And oh, wow, look here, there's a hole, fresh hole. And oh, look, there's a little chain. That's cool. Let's add it to my collection, right? You don't want to go back there. You want to bury it and you want to leave it there. And so sometimes it's important for us to set up boundaries. In addition to social accountability, we need to put boundaries there for ourselves, personal boundaries, to protect ourselves in a proactive way. And then thirdly, after you bury it, after you have sunlight, you need water. Water the chain. Water the chain with spiritual rain, which is prayer. Bring it to God as often as it starts to cry out for your attention. Drown that sucker with prayer. Don't dwell on it, but drown it with prayer as often as it cries out for your attention. I believe that where you have a chain, God has a key with the power to break it. Wait on that power. Wait on God's power to unlock your potential by breaking every chain in your life. The challenge today is to trade great chains for great change. Trade great chains for great change. And your response to the challenge will depend on how you answer the question, is the chain worth the weight? Or is the change worth the weight? Is the chain worth the weight? Or is the change worth the weight? As we close our time, I want to share this chain with all of you, or whoever would like to respond, because where you have a chain, I believe God has a key. Where you have been bound, I believe God has a seed to grow and to break you into freedom by breaking you out of the chains that bind you. And so if you have a chain in your life that has been holding you back for far too long, or if you have given up a chain and you want a reminder to proactively protect yourself from falling back into that addiction, I'm going to have a time of an invitation to invite you to come forward and take one of these loops of the chain and make it a keychain. Put your keys on it to remind you that where you have a chain, God has a key. There's potential to grow, guys. We don't have to be trapped in it. The keys do actually fit on this. I tried. So if you would like to respond by giving up your chains in a responsive time, I'm going to invite Paul to lead us in a song. And I will hand these out as you guys would like to respond. Thank you for listening to Norwood Wesleyan Church online. If you ever find yourself in Edmonton, Alberta, I hope you can stop by for a worship service on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. And when you do, be sure to stay after for our family meal. This is Pastor Phillip Telfer, hoping you can join us again as we continue reaching for God together.